Welcome back to another episode, all. Throughout this episode, I'm going to explain how I've been able to enjoy life even though I've been disabled my entire life. First of all, my disabilities is severe epilepsy and autism, which in the past was called Asperger's syndrome in the 90s. People don't seem to find it very easy to believe, but I am one of the most severely disabled people in the United Kingdom, and even I found that difficult to believe of what my nurses tell me, that I'm one of the most severely disabled. That's very difficult to believe. With my epilepsy, I get a bit of a warning at first where I sense something in my stomach, it then comes up, some kind of deja vu sense, then I fall unconscious into what they call a secondary generalised seizure, and then I'm extremely active, very hypermotive, and that I cause tons of injuries all over myself. For example, I've broken bones in my body before. I've broken my skull open when I was about 5 years old. I had a seizure at the top of the stairs, then fell down and smashed my head on the radiator. Once the nurses got the ambulance got to my home, to my dad's home, the nurses had to see to my big brother first, because once my big brother saw me, he passed out. So they left me at the bottom of the stairs with my head leaking with blood, and they saw my big brother first. It took quite a while to forgive him. And with my epilepsy, with my autism, it's actually it's switched and changed all over throughout my life. Where at one point some people call it ASD2, then a bit later some will call it ASD3, and at this point in time, they'll classify it as Autism Spectrum Disorder 1. So I'm seen as number 1. So the epilepsy caused me a great lot of trouble. For example, there's so many things I'm not allowed to do as a job, such as anything which involves driving. I'm not allowed to drive because if I have a seizure, I'll fall unconscious, then most likely crash, and not just hurt myself but hurt others as well. So any jobs which involve going very high up as if it's a construction site, I could have a seizure and then fall down and die. I could. So my epilepsy is very troublesome and really does cause a lot of injuries for me. Such as, for example, the doctors would usually just prescribe people on epilepsy 2 medications for their epilepsy. However, with me, they've put me on 5 medications. So I'm on 5 different medications altogether called levetiracetam, lamotrigine, clobazam, perampanel, and melatonin. I've been on every single medication that there is for epilepsy. Right, so there's a lot of trouble to that, but I'm going to explain a bit later on in the video of how can I enjoy life while I'm going through this. The autism has caused some problems throughout my life. It's not entirely positive. For example, throughout my childhood and teenage years, until I were about 17 or 18 years old, I were extremely violent. I were hurting my brothers, hurting my sister, hurting my parents, just anyone who upset me. I was hurting them in very dangerous ways. Not just ways as in where bullies bully each other at school, but they were actually very dangerous things to do. The kind of things I did because of my autism. I'm not saying that using autism as an excuse for it's mad because if autism makes me think in a different way, it made me think in a different way to other violent people. For example, while other bullies would usually just hit each other or something or call each other names, I did more dangerous things such as, for example, drugging people. I went and tried dissolving drugs inside my siblings' drinks. Sometimes I waited until the middle of the night and I attempted to suffocate my siblings by waking up into the middle of the night. They're not the kind of things that bullies usually do, but it's because of how my autism makes me think in a different way. That's it. Altogether, they're rather the negative side of it, which makes it difficult in order to live. They're the things which are not so pleasant, such as getting injuries all the time and so on, and of how I've done things which I regret today, such I regret all the harm that I did to the other people around me. I see it as wrong myself now. By taking things literally when I was younger, adults went saying to me, think about the consequences of your actions, and if you think it's worth it, do it. So I took that literally at the time, as I didn't understand metaphors yet. So I thought, well, if I go hating these bullies will leave me alone. They'll stop bullying me because of my disabilities. Then I'll get to stay inside the school by myself at dinner time, at break time. Then while everyone else is standing outside in the rain, I get a real nice warm classroom to be. So I thought that was worth it, so I did it altogether. So there is positive and negative sides on both. So when it comes to autism, if you, rather than thinking about all the normal things, if you actually look at the differences which are positive, rather than thinking that what the majority do is the quality of life, but anyone with any kind of disability doesn't have a quality of life. But quality of life is not determined by disability whatsoever. People can be disabled and enjoy life just as I have. Because basically, the quality of life is determined by your own perspective, by our own point of view. So all my doctors made predictions when they made the diagnosis of my disabilities, such as when they made disabilities like epilepsy and autism for me. They weren't thinking, telling my parents, your son will never be negative, your son will never be able to do this, never be able to do that. But fortunately at the time, because I was still so young, I didn't understand what people meant when they said, my son's got epilepsy, he's got autism. I didn't know what these disabilities were at the time, but I kept hearing people say, Daniel can't do this, Daniel can't do that, and so on. And that made me think they were making fun of me. So I wanted to try and prove them wrong, and prove that I could do things. So I had this self-determination to just do my best. So even though I didn't always do as good as everyone else at certain activities, I did far better than what people predicted. So if you're a parent of disabled children, I advise you that don't allow a diagnosis to make you determine what your child's life is going to be like in the future, what your child's abilities and inabilities are, what their difficulties and so on. Don't let a diagnosis make you predict the future of your child's life. Such as where it comes to abilities and achievements, by I not being feeling so bad about it and so on, I just did what I did, just tried my best and just kept making my way forward. For example, what I can do now is I'm a musician, a pianist, I do music composition, a grand chess master, played snooker, martial art and self-defense teacher. Let's see what else I've got. I was a sports personality of the year reward. Is what I received from inside where I live. Let's see what else. And tons about self-teaching and teaching others. For example, with my epilepsy, I've done epilepsy and neurodiversity ever since I was 9 years old. But other people were not able to teach themselves. Well, not many. It wasn't usual for people to teach themselves in their own leisure time. It was usually people playing on games or playing out together. So autism actually does provide abilities as well as difficulties. It provides both. So I didn't really quite see the problem with it. Why should I see myself as disabled by the epilepsy when it gives me abilities that other people are not able to do? It makes me able to see certain things that others can't see until I point it out to them. There's certain things of how I can focus and concentrate in such a high way that others are not able to. So there's so many good things that autism can help individuals do. Now, in what I do in order for my disabilities and so on not to be so traumatizing is I have the qualities of humility, meekness, and by having those, being submissive, that goes equaling. It's the opposite of pride, but pride is the cause of all the misery altogether. Because anyone who is prideful, when someone puts up pride, they turn everyone in the world into their enemy. You make everyone your competition if you choose to be prideful. That you compare yourself to them, and if you view their life as better than yours, that's what makes you see your life as, oh, my life's not very good. But mate, rather than being prideful, comparing my life against others, all that I do is that I base mine on nature. What does nature have to say? Not what does Francis Galton, Carl Pearson and Ronald Fisher have to say. So that's basically where quite a lot of these problems come from. It's by basing everything upon statistics. But rather than statistics, this normality that humans have made up, I would rather trust nature. So when they say, when you get to about 10 years old, you should be able to do this, should be able to do that. But me, by being humble to myself, being meek, not having to do as well as everyone else, I just do things at the rate I do them at. I don't think I've got to do things as quickly as everyone else. And as I've just kept doing it, just kept going on, I've just kept improving on the things which I do. So, altogether, it's pride that actually causes problems. And altogether, really, from what I say, is that it could be said there's no such thing as blessings or curses, because there's opposition in all things. So if you can't recognise something which is unpleasant, that means you won't recognise what you think is joyful. You can't recognise one without the other. And you can't recognise that which is bad if you didn't recognise that which is good. So really, bad things, the things which you view as bad, unpleasant, like how I see my epilepsy as unpleasant, I don't like the injuries, I don't like the seizures and so on. I don't like them, but by having a seizure, that's rather a blessing, because that makes me able to know that I'm going to enjoy things later. But I wouldn't enjoy it later if I didn't know what it was like to be bad. But then, when it comes to being a blessing, when what you feel blessed by, what makes you feel good, when you're not able to do that, it makes you feel bad. So the blessing was the pathway to badness, and badness was the pathway to goodness again. So it just keeps going round in a cycle, about at one moment you're good, the next moment is bad, the next moment is good, bad. So since you can't have joy in life if you don't experience that which is not joyful, really you've got neither. It's neither good nor bad. So altogether, the quality of life is also dependent on your point of view. Individually, it's actually got nothing to do with disabilities, such as there's even been studies done where they've actually asked disabled people themselves, all with diseases, disorders and disabilities, they've asked individuals to give a rating of what's the quality of their life, how do they feel the quality of their life is. And like me, quite a lot of them, most of them actually say that their disability, disorder or disease is part of their identity. They actually see that as they've grown up with these disabilities, it's actually determined part of who they are. As I can see, autism makes me who I am, I can say. So, really, altogether, there's actually no scientific or objective way of saying what is the quality of life. The quality of life is subjective, and it's all about how you choose to view life. Like where I just mentioned about not being prideful, but just accepting nature the way it is. Accepting that bad things make me able to have good things make me able to have bad, good, bad. Of how I see that as a good thing, so I don't exactly see anything bad there. And then, because I've got to be treated a different way because of my disabilities, for example, by not being entitled to a full-time job, how am I supposed to live? I stay at home most of the time, and by staying at home most of the time, I get to do things which I enjoy all the time. I don't actually have to go getting exhausted, doing about 8-hour shifts or 8 to 12 hours, exhausting myself, and which would result in making myself sick if I were actually working that long. Which is why I think so many of today's people, why disabilities, disorders, diseases, sickness, it's why I see that it's getting more and more common in today's world. So quality of life altogether is all down to our own point of view. How do we choose to look at life? How do we think about it? Like, say if we take life for a moment, if you think about life, when I ask people, what do you think is a disorder? What's a disability? And most of them go saying things like, "Oh, anything that leads to death inside your life is a disorder." Well, life leads to death. There'd be no death if there was no life. But say anything that reduces the quality of life. Again, that's up to the individual's point of view. It's not up to the disability itself. So when you actually come to accept that you don't need to compare yourself to other people, you don't need to compare yourself to the lives of others, just by being who you are, by not comparing yourself to others because of pride, by not viewing life as some kind of competition, that makes you able to, you don't see the point of why exactly must I be able to do things by a certain age? You'll see that you can just do it when you're ready to do it. You don't have to do it by a specific time or age. So more things is when it comes to what do I enjoy, and so on. There's nothing wrong with I enjoying fewer things compared to others, compared to a majority. So while others will have lots of interests, I might have very few because of autism. But what's bad about having so few disabilities of autism? So few activities or interests. Exactly. And when it comes to learning, there's multiple ways of how people can learn things. So what exactly makes it bad for me to learn the way I learn things? Exactly. Others can't seem to learn things in the way I learn them, but I struggle to learn things in the way that others learn them. So which one's the better way to learn? Why must you say something's a bad way to learn just because there's fewer? Precisely there's not, so there's no need to compare your life to others or anything. If you're just prideful, that's what brings the misery. It's things like pride that have caused things like wars throughout our history, such as say World War II with Adolf Hitler. He saw that Germans, himself included, that they were better than the Polish, so he invaded the Polish, and by doing so, that started World War II altogether. Altogether, you look at things and you find that all contention, fighting, bullying, all the arguing, arrogance, and so on, are all the result of being prideful altogether. So if you're humble, meek, and submissive to nature itself, actually trusting nature, you'll find that you can easily enjoy life altogether. So even though I am one of the most severely disabled people in the United Kingdom, I seem to really enjoy life because of all that which I've got, by not really caring about other people. What can other people do? Why do I need to care about that? So I'm not caring about that. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. And then by bad things making good things possible, I don't exactly say why exactly is doing something bad just a bad thing. Why can't I live with it and just watch it go by? I know it's not going to stay with me forever. Not having epileptic seizures day after day or anything. I'm not getting injured day after day. So it's also a matter of identifying who are you? That's something you should ask yourself. Who are you? Rather than asking yourself, oh, society wants me to be this or wants me to be that. Actually ask yourself of who are you? Not go asking, oh, I've got to be like society. Because that just makes your life more miserable altogether. Because you may have better values, your personal moral values of what you see as moral, but why must you go do something which is against your morals? It's people being against their own morals and so on that causes so much trouble. And that's another good thing I see about my autism, is by autism making me less susceptible to peer pressure, I'm able to just follow my own morals, what I see as moral, from my view, altogether. So it doesn't bother me once again because of my disabilities. So when you look at what you can do, rather than looking at what you can't do, when you are not prideful, you find that you can enjoy life. And if you don't just go wasting everything, actually look at all you've got, such as if you're still with your parents, for example, and your parents may greatly love you, but as humans, we do have a tendency to take so much for granted, including the people. So when you look at that which you have got, that is something to be very grateful for. Having a lack of gratitude is also another way to making life miserable. So if you choose to have gratitude, choose to be humble, meek, submissive, you find that life is just so easy to enjoy, and it's so easy to cope with the difficulties, with the things which may hurt you. So that's how I've enjoyed life as a disabled person, as one of the most severely disabled people, is by once I got past all the violent behaviour that I was doing, and once I became someone who doesn't want to hurt anyone, I've absolutely loved my life altogether. You know, by actually showing love to the people who I do love, by actually recognising the love that those who love me do so. And it really upsets me when I find so many disabled people saying, my parents don't love me, or my parents have disowned me, such as my mother's disowned me, for example. But I'm not really bothered about my mother disowning me. But I've got a great dad. My dad is brilliant. He loves me for who I am, and he never even considered of disowning me because of my disability. So those of you who are disabled who may be listening, if you've got parents who've gone disowning you, or parents who don't go showing so much love to you, I'm very sorry for you. You know, I really would like it if you did have people who could love you, so that you could have a father like mine, and some other fathers. Like, there's a YouTube channel called PDA Dad UK, and the owner of that channel, he's just like my dad. You know, he's brilliant. He loves his disabled children. Altogether, he just loves his family, just like my dad does. So I'm sorry for any of you who don't have a loving family who will actually own you and not disown you. So again, I would just like to say sorry to you, to those of you who have families that have just kicked you out. I say sorry unto you all for that. So those of you who are disabled, try and make sure that you are not joyful. Make sure you are not prideful, because the pride is what makes you feel so miserable altogether. Try and recognise that it's that which is bad which makes you able to feel that which is good. You know, so we should actually accept the cases in order so that we can have the blessings. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. If you don't mind, it would be greatly appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel. Thank you.